Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
Happy Explosions Day, because that's what happened yesterday.
Happy July the 4th.
Yeah,
Happy
seriously.
July the 4th, especially for the people in the States. We actually normally record on Saturdays, July 4th. But like the kids have explained, there was a lot of fireworks going on outside, which made it nearly impossible to record.
Not
I don't
nearly
know how
impossible.
it
It
was
made
by
it
you guys.
impossible to record.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just bad. I mean,
It was
I
not
literally got zero sleep because these guys out here they were popping fireworks, and not the small ones but the big ones until like 4:30 in the morning. So that was
my
not
last
good.
my last one clocked in at 5:08 a.m. because
Oh
as soon
my
as
gosh,
the bang woke me up, I had to take a look at my phone to see what time it was, and I was
that's
not happy.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Hey, isn't it that fireworks are illegal in New York?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a thing or something like that? So where the hell are all these fireworks coming from?
Oh man, it's a crazy time right now. It's a crazy time.
I mean, it's been going on for weeks, and then
Well, yeah.
yesterday it started like around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it was just nonstop. We had a lull like around maybe 10:30, but then I figured these guys were like, you know what? We took a break. Now we're going to come back with a vengeance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they went in to get their dinner and all that, maybe a cup of coffee, and then they came back out for round 2, 3, and 4.
Oh my God, it was horrible. But that July the 4th wasn't horrible, but just the fact that we couldn't record yesterday was horrible. So,
Yeah.
put it that way. July the 4th, I hope you had a good July the 4th. For me, this July the 4th, especially in the circumstances that we are, it felt a little different and it felt a little somber, but I don't know how your experience was.
I mean, it definitely felt different, like we're kind of dealing with a certain political climate that makes everything a little bit difficult to, I don't want to say enjoy, but it puts it in the backdrop of, hey, like we as a people are kind of taking a pause and making sure that we take a pause to not let certain topics just go by the wayside and stuff. And I think that's what sort of has happened. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it had a different meaning this year.
yeah.
Anyway, we are the Get Geek podcast, and so we're going to do a Geek Out episode, which we haven't done in quite a bit. I think it's been like maybe 3 or 4 weeks since we've done a Geek Out episode, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, let's introduce ourselves. Let's get this thing rolling. I'm Walt.
This is Wolfie.
This is AJ.
This is Eli.
And so before we continue, I just want to get some podcast maintenance stuff out of the way. First of all, as you know, we've been remote casting for about 4 months because of COVID. We're trying to be socially distancing and, being safe and all that stuff. So, for our listeners, you may hear a sound artifact here or there. Just know that, it's kind of the cost of business now with TV and, radio and podcasts that, we're all kind of remote casting right now. So, like I said, it's kind of the cost of business, but we will try to minimize it as much as possible. That being said, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the show so you don't miss out any of our great content. And
Or
please,
contests.
or a contest, that's true, which we're going to talk about shortly. And guys, please remember to rate and review the show. That way we know what, how we're doing and what you guys want to hear. And if you do post a review on iTunes, we'll give you a shout out on the show. So there's some incentive. And as Wolfie was talking about, we also have contests. We have some pretty cool contests. one of which ended yesterday. That was the one for the Vegeta Pop Funko, right?
Yep.
And we do have a winner. So hold on, let me pull that up because
Winner,
I got it
winner,
right
chicken
here.
dinner.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I got it right
Please
here.
announce, please announce it
So
because I remember it's a long name, right?
right, so the username AlterBrap04 Gaming, also known as Caden Knowles. Congratulations, you are the winner of this pop that we got lying around over here, the Vegeta pop number 614. It's actually one of my favorite pops because it's the image of Vegeta just kind of with his hair flowing in the wind, which we don't ever see Vegeta having hair flowing in the wind again. So
Yeah, his
it's
hair's
one of
kind
my
of
favorite
stiff.
images. So it is very specific, and you are now the winner. Congratulations. Send us a
That
DM.
dude wear,
Huh?
that dude wears a lot of product in his hair, so
Yeah, I know.
stuck up there.
He's the definition of punk.
There you go. You know. All right. So we're gonna reach out to you. We'll DM you. We're going to announce this obviously when the podcast releases on Monday, and we will put up a post on Tuesday on Instagram. So you should be getting a message from us shortly, so we can get your information and ship that very stylish Vegeta out to you.
All right, so
Let's get
we
into
are
this.
here. We're geeking out, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're always geeking out. Come on, seriously.
Who
You know.
who's geeking out first?
I guess I'll start then.
Okay.
So Netflix has been killing it in terms of quarantine watching, right? I mean, they drop shows like crazy all the time, but especially with the quarantine stuff, the shows that are coming out are just and the films have been ridiculous. I mean, we've had Extraction come out, we had the movie The Five Bloods come out. We have in the pipeline another comic book film, The Old Guard with Charlize Theron, that's coming out pretty soon. Umbrella Academy is coming out in July. There's a lot of stuff coming out, right? But one of the things that I was excited about, I had actually posted the trailer on Instagram a couple of months ago. And that's the new series that dropped on July 2nd called Warrior Nun.
Oh, word! I
Yeah,
forgot I saw that.
yeah, it's really, really cool, believe it or not. Um, it's like I said, it dropped July 2nd, but they already have so much confidence in the show that they renewed it for a second season 3
Really?
days before the thing came out. So, um, it's a pretty interesting show. If you go on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see that the series has an 85 approval rating and the audience rating is at 82%. And currently, the last time I checked, it is the second rated. It's in the top. They have that top 10 list
Yeah, yeah.
for Netflix. It's number 2. All right. So
Damn.
it seems like a pretty popular show.
I mean, I'm definitely down
So
to check it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you would like it. Let me give you the synopsis that Netflix gives it, and it's a very short one, and it's pretty cool. After waking up in a morgue, an orphan teen discovers she now possesses superpowers as the chosen halo bearer for a secret sect of demon hunting nuns. So if you're into like supernatural and stuff like that, I think this is a show that's right up your alley. It stars Alba Baptiste as the main character, Ava Silva, and she is a Portuguese actress making her English speaking debut. Now, she's big over in Portugal, and she is fantastic in the show. When I'm watching her, I get a sort of vibe that she's like a mix of Ellen Page and Jennifer Lawrence, and she's super charismatic in the role. So the show itself is based on a manga series, a comic book series that debuted back in 1994. It was created by Ben Dunn. It was published by Antarctic Press, And like I said, it came out in December 1994, and the name of the series was called Warrior Nun Ariala. At first, Netflix thought that they were going to make this into a film, but then they decided that it probably would be better served as a series, and I'm glad they did that choice because there's a lot to unpack here. I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis of what happened in the first episode because I think that kind of tells you everything you need to know about the show. So it's a little bit spoilery for the first episode, but I'm not going to ruin the season. Okay. So the show starts out and we see our character on a slab in a monastery and she's dead, right? And there's a conversation between a priest and a nun, you know, and they inform you that she's part of an orphanage, and she's quadriplegic, so she doesn't have the use of her legs and stuff. And she doesn't come across as the most well-liked person. She seems like she's sort of a rebel in the orphanage and stuff. And, you know, their conversation is shortly interrupted because a bunch of nuns come in, dragging in one of their own. And that person, you know, is seemingly mortally wounded. And this is where, you know, you get the sense that this is a different series because you can put the phrase nuns with guns and it works perfectly for this show. And it turns out that the person that's hurt is their leader, and she's been shot up with what's called divinium bullets. And that word divinium is a big part of the show. And apparently they were ambushed by certain people. They were investigating something in the dock and stuff. And it turns out that they named the person. It's her name is Sister Sharon Masters. And that's going to be important, and I'll explain a little bit why. But it turns out that, you know, the battle is still going on outside the monastery, and they're trying to save her. They can't save her, so they realize they have to take out a relic out of her back, and that relic is called the Halo. And it gives the bearer, you know, great powers and stuff like that. So, you know, they have this nun that comes out, takes it out and stuff, and then, you know, the other forces, they blast their way in. There's a chase, and eventually the nun is forced to put that halo, which kind of gets absorbed into the back, into the main character, Ava. And shortly afterwards, Ava's resurrected. And not only is she resurrected, but she's got full use of all of her limbs and things of that nature. And she can now see what's actually going on, because what's happening is that the people that are coming to invade are actually possessed by demons. And because she has the halo in her back, she's able to see all of that. So, you know, again, there's a big fight. And then she realizes that she has super strength. She can teleport. She can heal, very much like Wolverine. And so she's a little confused and stuff like that. So that's the basis of the first episode. It's giving you, you know, what's going on with her, what the thing is. We learn a little bit later that these nuns are part of an order called the Order of the Cruciform Sword. I'm sorry. And there's a tech company involved. Interestingly, it's called the Arc Tech. Biblical, right? And, you know, it's a weird story because the very first episode is so action packed, but then it kind of slows down really, really, you know. And we get a lot of world building. We get a lot of, you know, mythology and lore. And there's a point where Ava is separated and she meets up with these kids, and that's where it gets a little CW like and stuff. The show is better when it stays away from that CW quality and really shines when it deals with the lore and mythology of, you know, the Order of the Cruciform Sword and the Halo and things of that nature. There's one thing that I don't like, which is heavy in the first couple episodes, and it kind of lessens. And that's the point that the main character is kind of like speaking to you and narrating what's going on. And
Like breaking
I
the fourth wall, or
yeah, well, almost, and I really don't like that because to me it feels like the show doesn't trust the actress enough to be able to emote all of that stuff without having to physically say it. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And that actress, she is fantastic. I mean, like I said, she's
Interesting.
very charismatic, and you really do get a sense of the hero's journey with this character because she's, and rightfully so, she's been stuck in a wheelchair all this time and she doesn't want to save the world. She just wants to go out and have fun. She wants to be able to party. Now she has the use of her legs. She wants to be able to go around. She doesn't want to have to deal with the responsibility and the weight that the halo brings. And there are other characters involved. One of them is Lilith, who is supposed to be the next bearer of the halo. And there is some interplay between the two because she believes she's supposed to have the halo, but yet some of the priests thinks that Ava is the chosen one. I'm gonna say this. The first 3 episodes, like I said, the first one is a real highlight. Then it kind of ground down to a little bit of a halt, in terms of you know delving away from the main story. But if you continue with the story really does build until the season finale, and the last 2 episodes are fantastic. And there's a lot of plot twists along the way. And that last episode leaves you at a super cliffhanger. And I'm reading a lot of the comments that didn't know that there was going to be a season 2, and a lot of people were angry the way they left it off because it literally leaves you almost like a Matrix type of thing where it's like to be continued. It cuts you right. It's like a harsh cut. It cuts you right in the middle of something.
Oh, really?
But yeah, but I'm
Mm.
telling you, the choreography is amazing. That's some really good fight choreography, especially with Sister Beatrice. She is like doing nun fu and stuff like that. Um, if you give the series a chance, I think you really, really are going to like it. I mean, if you're a fan of action, fantasy, and drama, I think this definitely has to be on your list to watch. I enjoyed it immensely, and I really can't wait for season 2.
That's awesome. That sounds great. I mean, it's funny because I was just looking to uh get into a new show, and I was going to start, and I probably still will start. I was going to start Hannah on Amazon Prime.
Oh, that is good. That is good.
Yeah.
I started the first season. I never got
Yeah.
around to finishing it, but that is a good show.
Only because I remember seeing the movie. I don't know if you know this, but there's a movie that came out a while back, quite a
Yep.
while back, I think, with
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bana.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I thought the movie was pretty cool. I it didn't play like as an action movie that great, I think, but I think the story that was being told was really, really awesome. And then now that they have an actual Amazon Prime show, which I've been a fan of the Prime shows that I have checked out, definitely looking forward to checking that out. So I'll put this kind of on the list. Maybe I'll go back and forth between the two shows and stuff. So
Yeah, I think you'll like the show. Like I said, you got to give it some time to. It almost feels like it's two shows sometimes because when
mhm.
they're dealing with the CW stuff, that's where it's like, okay, can we get past that? But once they get into like the monastery and the priest and the nuns and the demons and stuff, that's where it's really, really good. I do
That's
want to
interesting
mention
because
one thing. Oh, okay.
hmm
No, continue.
no, go on, go on, go on.
I do want to mention one thing that may polarize people who are fans of the original manga, because the main character, and this is why I said I'm going to go back to this. The main character in the manga is Shannon Masters. She is the warrior nun in those books. In this series, she dies within the first 5 minutes.
Spoiler alert.
So no, but it's like I said, it's you're gonna see it immediately because it's not. And I did say it was gonna be a little spoilery for the first episode, but
All
she,
right,
like I said, if you don't know the book, then it really doesn't make a
then it doesn't
difference to you
matter.
because
Okay.
right, exactly. And like I said, I wonder how fans of the book will react to the show, because that's a big change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're dealing with a series of books that deal with a specific character, and then the series for Netflix, whether it's a bold move or a stupid move, kill her off in the first 5 minutes. So it's a weird thing. And like I said, if there's any listeners who are a fan of the book, I would love to hear your comments on this, and see whether you do like this adaptation of it. Because like I said, normally when you do an adaptation, yeah, you change a couple of things, but you kind of keep it, pretty close to the source material. At least you keep the main character around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Well, to be honest, I think that that's not the worst thing to do, because I think it'd be better to have like their own interpretation with their own new character and stuff like that, while still kind of having a callback to the original character, as opposed to trying to interpret the story the exact same way, because then you'll be judged against the book, in my opinion. When you create a new character, you kind of have a little bit more free reign, and you also make the show it's standing alone on its own, where of course it's always going to be compared to the book, but there won't be a direct comparison, because they're not compared. It's not like, well, I like that character much better in the book than how they portrayed him in the show, so that's
I
that's
think,
just how I look at it. Eli.
yeah, I think I might try and watch it because I probably judged the movie by like its name, because usually when I think of a nun, it's usually like peaceful, but like warrior nun kind of adds like a little bit of a weird mix there.
Listen, one of the main characters, Sister Mary, her nickname is Shotgun Mary. So that's
Sounds
all.
Sounds
like a
dope to me,
preacher.
man.
And it's funny because Preacher is one of the things that I look at it. It's, and again, going back to some of the things with the book. A lot of people like the book because of the reference that it gave to like the mythology and the lore, but also its respectfulness to the religious part of it, where
Mm.
Preacher is completely irreverent when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Preacher doesn't pull any punches. You know what I'm saying?
It really
Uh,
doesn't.
all I have to do is humperdo.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. So if you guys know about Preacher and you know about Humperdew, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know,
Mm.
but Warrior Nun is not that. It's not irreverent. It doesn't disrespect um, any sort of religious things. It does do a little things, but I don't think it's that crazy. And it's not, like I said, it's not disrespecting the religious piece of it. It holds it, it treats it with the respect that it deserves, I guess,
Well, I'm all in.
So
So
yeah, so like I said, if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're into like supernatural and things of that nature, and demon hunting, then definitely this is something that you should put on your list. It's only 10 episodes. They're usually about 40 minutes long, so I
speaking
just
of
happen to think.
supernatural, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
I just
sorry.
happen to think that this series is probably going to be one of those big series that people talk about this summer. So, um, yeah,
Anyway, I was gonna attempt my own little segue.
go for it, man.
Speaking of supernatural, AJ, what are you geeking out on?
Haha.
Booyah!
Very nice. Um. So
Wolfie, that was smooth. That was smooth. I like that.
Oh man.
I haven't really been up to much, but with what time I do that I have used, I've been using to catch up to some game series that are still open. Like, for instance, today I will be talking about Dead Space 2.
Hey,
And I'm just going to do like a little mini run through of the things I've done. So, I went and got 4 chapters done. And that would be, and this is out of 15. I did chapters 7, 8, 9, and 10. And ooh, it was, oh man. So, chapter 7 is called Power from the Sun. And, it's about, chapter 7 sees Isaac venture up to something called the solar array. And it's basically like, you know how people like, what do you call those things? Solar panels. Well, think of this as a huge, gigantic one in space that's meant to power a space station.
Okay.
You know what? But before I even get there, you have to clear. You need to clear. You have to take a monorail, like a little monorail, to this part of the station. And so one of the things you had to do is you had to clear a lot of I like to call it necromatter. Because you know how the flood, they kind of just goo up the place?
Mm-hmm.
They had a similar thing with the necromorphs.
That's got to be a big space station if you got to take a monorail from one place to the other.
It is
It's
big.
gotta be
It's like
huge.
a mini city. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I ended up having what you had to do in this stage was you had to take these explosive canisters
Mm-hmm.
and you had to throw them at these I forgot what you threw them at, but they were highly explosive. So it will be enough to clear the necromatter.
Okay.
But at the same time, you had to fight necromorph tripods. And basically,
I don't even know what that is.
yeah, I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember Wolfie from Halo 3, the huge berserker floods?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Think those, but maybe twice as large, and they're fast.
Ooh.
That's
That sounds
interesting.
kind of scary.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And you have to clear. You have to do it one at a time, also, because there are some on the ground, but there's only probably one on the ground. You have to wait. There's a little spot in the place you're in where they respawn after like maybe a minute or two, and in that time these tripods are constantly spawning.
That seems pretty unfair, man. I mean, they're as badass as you say, and they're respawning every 1 to 2 minutes. That's tough, man.
I had to really, and then what makes it that much harder with Dead Space is that you have to really you have to learn how to conserve your ammo. You have to make every shot count.
I do remember that from the first game. It's so I guess the second game is
And
very similar, right?
I had little to no money, and a lot of the time, sometimes throughout all these chapters, there would be times where I was ammoless and I had to use the puncher to kill things.
Okay.
It was bad, but that's not even the worst part.
Oh, so there's something worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
No problem.
imagine getting out of there with, let's say I have a full health bar.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of that with maybe a little less than half my health bar.
So let me refresh my memory. The health bar is on his back, right?
Yeah, the rig.
That's the way they show you how much health you have. Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a cool mechanic, but
yeah,
it's all good.
So I'm coming out of there with maybe less than half health. I finally get to the solar array. You have to, since everything in the facility is shut down because there's a quarantine event going on here,
Mm-hmm.
and basically the equivalent of the U.S. military shut everything down.
Okay.
And they have complete martial law control of the station.
Okay.
You have to go out into zero gravity and recalibrate these huge solar panels. Guess what you also have to do? There are these other necromorphs called nests. Those are fun.
Nests?
Nests.
Nests?
Yes. And basically what they are is, think like a huge bulbous thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would open, and out of it would come this huge tentacle.
Oh,
And this tentacle would shoot, and it would happen anytime you were near it.
So can't you just stay away from it then?
That's the problem. One of the panels was right where it was.
And you have no ammo.
Close to no ammo.
Because you're cheap.
Yes.
Because you had no money.
But that's not even the worst part.
Okay.
That tentacle shoots these little necromorphs, and I like to call them necro bullets. They're small, they're red, and they fly through space. They're like homing bullets. I mean, homing missiles.
Yeah, that sounds like you're screwed.
Yeah.
You know how many times I respawned?
I can imagine. Especially because you're cheap. No money.
The zero gravity and managing your oxygen wasn't even the worst part. It was just the constant, I'm coming for you.
And there's no way that you can avoid that, right?
No.
Okay.
And that ended chapter 7. Chapter 8, let me see here. So, with chapter 8, you're doing more ship stuff. You have to, let me see here. What do you need to do? You have to get through this area, also zero gravity. This one was easier compared to what I'd just done before. And basically, the main antagonist is turning things on specifically to kill you.
Okay.
And, that was okay. You had to use your stasis ability. No problem. Let's skip on over to chapter 9.
Okay.
In chapter 9, you had to repair the industrial transport in order to get to the government sector. You finally meet up with these two people who you've been collaborating with, Strauss and Ellie. Ellie is like, someone who also works at the space station, and Strauss is a psych ward patient who Isaac, the main character, was, I guess, not incarcerated with, but like, he was basically in the psych ward because of the first game, so he met this guy Strauss. Let me see here. And so you're going through this. You have to do a series of things. Very good things.
What are you, Trump? What is very good things? It's Piglin,
Let me see here. What you eventually come to do here is that you're on your way to the USG Ishimura, which is the first ship from the original game. Because apparently you have to go back there for something. I honestly don't remember what. So I'm going to leave off now where I left off. Chapter 10. And this one was, I won't say scary, but it was certainly unnerving. So you eventually have to board the Ishimura. And what you need to do, one of the things you need to do, is you need to activate the gravity centrifuge. And that's because everything, in order to actually be able to do what you need to do, you need to activate this thing. After I go and do that, there's this dark tunnel. Very low light. And every now and again, you'd be ambushed by several kinds of necromorphs. Tripods, too. And again, I have low ammo, so it's not fun. I have to use the melee ability whenever I can. You know what I actually ended up having to do? There's this feature in Dead Space where you use telekinesis.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. What I ended up needing to do, I had to take whatever small crates I could find
And throw it at him?
and just keep spamming it. I had to do that for maybe half an hour straight just to get to the end of this damn hallway.
Use the force, Luke.
Oh, man.
All right.
Long story short, it's an awesome playthrough on normal.
Oh, so that's normal then. Okay.
That's normal.
Okay. I remember the first
That's
game being
normal.
challenging. I remember the first game being awesome. How's the second game? I've never gotten around to playing the second game.
I like the second game so far.
The story is awesome as usual, right?
Yeah. But this is just normal difficulty, man.
Okay.
I don't even want to entertain this game's version of Legendary.
All right.
If you want, Mr. Eli, you're always looking for a challenge. You want a challenge? Do Dead Space 2, the Dead Space series, on its equivalent of Legendary. Have fun.
I will. I'll try and get into that, actually.
And
God.
that ends my solitary Geek Out.
Okay. That sounds pretty cool. Eli, you wanna go ahead?
Oh, mine is really super long, but I'll try and get into it. It's actually me and AJ who are doing this the Geek Out. So,
Okay. So this is a joint Geek Out.
yeah,
Okay.
and a really long one for sure.
Oh boy.
So
I have an idea of what it is because you guys have been playing it nonstop for like the last week and a half.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the Minecraft Nether update. I've been waiting like maybe half a year, maybe a year. I don't even know. But the new update comes out with an even bigger challenge for players who come to the Nether. For newer players, the Nether is a dimension basically like hell that holds some of the deadliest mobs known to man. Mobs are like monsters. And the only way to progress through the game is going through the Nether.
and the deadliest one is that pig that I keep seeing you fight, right?
Oh god.
Well,
Yeah.
technically, no.
I know. I'm kidding. What is that? Like a warthog or something like that?
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue.
So, with the update already out, me and my fellow Minecraft player, AJ, have set out on a journey to attain the Super Saiyan God.
Wait, what?
Yep.
How does that work?
But we'll get into that.
Oh yeah.
I think AJ knows what I'm talking about.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So,
All right, so now, I did say we were going to come to it. We're going to go through the monsters.
Oh,
And
boy.
one of the monsters that are new to this update are piglins. They spawn in groups of 4, typically, in Crimson Forests, Bastion Remnants, and Nether Wastes. We'll do more on that later. I just have to mention where they spawn. And they are normally partial to golden armor. I mean, gold, as we all know, isn't the best armor, but, you know, everything in the Nether has a fetish for gold. They also use gold swords, a lot like the zombie pigmen of old, but they don't only use swords anymore. They also use crossbows, as if as if normal zombie pigmen were awesome. They did a lot of damage back in the day, but now they have ranged capabilities. Oh my god. It's nuts. The only difference there are a couple differences between them and the normal zombie pigmen, or what was zombie pigmen. These guys are a lot more hostile than their predecessors. But there is a way to circumvent that. What you need to do is you at least need to be wearing one piece of golden armor. And here's another of the new features. Not only can you be friends with them, you can be friends with them as barterers also. Mm-hmm. And they basically also double as villagers for the Netherrealm.
Yep, basically.
Continuing on their behavioral aspects, they're also, I said they're hostile already, but now they actually go and attack other things. Well, there wasn't a lot of things to attack in the Nether to begin with, but now there are.
Yeah.
And of the things they are hostile towards, they are hostile towards withers, wither skeletons, and hoglins. I think they're also hostile to regular skeletons too, right? Because those are also in the Nether now, right?
Yeah, I think, but I'm not too sure about that. Yeah.
Okay. And here's what I like personally about their new behavioral code. They flee if they see that they're outnumbered.
Yeah, so they're basically like upgrading like their AI basically, and to the point where like they're very much
Alive.
alive. Yeah,
They're
very alive.
The way they're doing it now is they're acting a lot more sentient.
Yeah.
Let's see. One of the other interesting features about these piglins is that now they also have babies, and one of the things that the babies can do is there's this other mob called the Hoglins. They can be seen occasionally playing with baby Hoglins. And, it's kind of cute.
It is.
Until they try and kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let us see. Regular piglins, they've actually, this is another thing that I like. They set up a warding system, and I think that's pretty cool. So piglins will often retreat or be warded off by zombified piglins or zoglins. Well, no, zombified piglins and zoglins are two different things. My apologies. Zombie piglins, zoglins, sorry, soulfire, which is a new item they added, soul torches and lanterns, and non-extinguished soul campfires. So it's basically another way to keep them from killing you every 5 seconds you're in the Nether if you don't have a golden piece of armor.
Yeah.
And you can attest to this now, can't you, Eli?
Yes, I really can. Gosh. Oh man. It's really, it'll get annoying to the point where if you don't have any way of respawning in the Nether, which we'll get into that later, you are definitely not even gonna make it like 5 minutes into the Nether.
And another of the changes we have with piglins, is that they are no longer naturally immune to fire and lava, which I kind of find sad and also very entertaining. Because now I haven't been to the Nether yet, but if I ever do go, now I don't have to worry about hitting them in lava, and they'll just be like, oh, time to go for a swim. Well, if they go in for a swim now, they die. So kind of happy about that.
Okay.
Yep, and they can also grief you. They can steal your armor if they kill you. They can break down your door if it's not iron. At least I think you can't break iron doors. Right?
No, I don't think we can.
Yes, so I'm definitely bringing the iron door to another. And yeah, that covers it for. No, that doesn't just cover it. There's this new. It's a new thing also. That when a piglin goes to the overworld or even the end, they will undergo a transformation.
The transformation of.
And the transformation is that they become zombie piglins.
Zombies.
Oh, God.
And you know what they do?
Okay.
If you thought piglins were hostile before, these guys are ultra hostile. Like, they will attack any living thing that moves. A fish, a squid, a player, a donkey.
As long as you hit them. As long as they're angered by them.
Okay. So how does a donkey anger them exactly?
By just existing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Another of the new mobs are Hoglins. And these things are also particularly annoying. You have experience with these.
Oof.
But they add a source of food to the Nether.
Finally.
And they drop raw pork chops, which can then, of course, be made into cooked pork chops.
Yeah.
Hoglins also have a warding system where if they are in proximity to warped fungi, typically in a flower pot, nether portals, or respawn angers, they will actively avoid them. They naturally sink in water, and they eventually drown. Thank God they are not immune to fire and lava. And despite the fact that they want to kill you every waking second, you can actually leash them and breed
Yeah.
them domestically, which I find is rather interesting. It's kind of like taming bulls, because that's how big they are. You'd think
Yeah.
something called a hoglin would be small, but they're actually as big
No.
as like a rhinoceros.
Yeah. You do not want to mess with them.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the other thing I wanted to say? The player attacks, they flee. Okay, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Hoglins, their attacks are very, very strong. I'm pretty sure they do like maybe 3, 4, 5 points of damage, and they can fling you away. So there's a chance of maybe taking fall damage. And I can tell you, these are not. You want to find a source of food, you do not just go head on and kill them. It's best to breed them first.
Yeah. And then the way, because I mentioned you could, I guess, domesticate them, even though you can't. But
Yeah.
if you breed them, you do it with crimson fungi.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about Hoglins is that they too undergo a transformation if they cross over in
The
dimensions.
Super Saiyan God.
And they become Zoglins.
Hoglins.
And just like the zombie piglins of I mentioned before, they become super duper hostile as well, and basically have all the attributes of the zombie piglin as well.
Yeah.
The other mob I will cover, second to last, is Striders. They drop string, and they're also a new mode of transportation in the Nether, because you can't exactly use a boat when trying to cross a lake of lava.
Yeah.
So what does Minecraft do? Meet the new horses in the Nether, Striders. They basically walk on lava and are the fastest things in the Nether. I think I said they drop string, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they drop string. In order to ride them, because you can ride them, you use a warped fungus on a stick, similar
saddle.
to a pig. Yes, and you have to use a saddle in order to actually mount them. You can also breed them with warped fungus. Interestingly, unlike all other nether mobs, they're the only ones who are adversely affected by water. Because
Mhm.
if they even come into contact with water, they will start taking damage, and it
Yeah.
can kill them.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy stuff. And what's interesting about the Striders is that if they're outside of lava for long periods of time, they'll actually look supremely, very weakened, because
Yeah, and
they
old.
essentially live off the lava that they're riding on. So
Yeah.
they'll look a little purple. They'll look a little sickly.
And wrinkles.
Yes, and they look sad.
Very sad.
Yes. And to cap off Striders, they can occasionally be found being ridden by not only zombie piglins, but their own babies. It's so cute. Oh my god. The final mob I'm going to cover now is the Piglin Brutes, who are like the berserker mob of the Nether.
They aren't out yet, but they will come to Minecraft, according to Mojang.
Yes. And when they do come out, they're going to be found in the Bastion Remnants. They can also, unlike the Piglins, they will not use swords and crossbows. They will typically use golden axes.
Mhm.
And they wear no armor, which is kind of interesting, but what they lack in defense, they really pack in offense. Yeah, they fight anything ranging from players to wither skeletons, withers themselves, and are not distracted by golden items or blocks. Um, let's see here. They do not retreat from Soulfire. They are not warded off from Soulfire, which can be a problem if you're trying to explore the Bastion remnants.
Yeah.
And if they are hunting and if piglins are hunting a hoglin, which they do occasionally, they'll even join them.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Not last but not least, but one of the things that piglins can do now is they can do a little victory dance every
Yeah.
now and again.
Okay.
And it's
Like
funny
flap their arms.
because
Okay.
what was that thing that happened when you were going through?
There was a hoglin that died because the victory dance happens when they kill a hoglin, but for some reason he was dancing while he was burning alive, which was a little bit strange. I mean, not that strange, but strange enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is there anything else you want to add about the Piglin Brutes?
No, I'm pretty sure that covers it.
No, and that's the mobs.
Yep. And okay, so now I'm gonna get into the biomes. I think we already covered what we kind of like covered.
We mentioned a few, but if you
Yeah.
want to go into detail a little more, you can.
Well, I'm just gonna add a little bit details. The crimson and warped biomes are new biomes that came out. The crimson is crimson, obviously, and the warped is like an alternate version of it. It's bluish green. You can obviously find the mushrooms there, crimson fungus, warped fungus. But and what they did add was that Enderman can spawn in the warped biome, which is like a source of ender pearls. The next two biomes are pretty cool, but they don't really hold anything that's really of use. The Delta Biomes, they hold ashes and white mist, space salt, and blackstone rocks are just sticking out of lava. Magma blocks constantly generate in this biome, and it looks like it might be like a volcanic area.
I mean, personally, I find that a little weird, but in a Nether environment, I guess, because typically when you're talking about basalt, sorry, I'm gonna do a little geology here. Am a geology minor.
Yeah.
When you're typically talking about basalt, you're talking about a very dense oceanic rock, and there's no water in the Nether, so
Not
I
really.
personally find that weird. But it's interesting because the Nether is, well, it's hell, so you're generally gonna think it's gonna be way down below Earth.
Yeah.
And as you go further, deeper and deeper into the Earth, the rocks get denser also. So you could kind of also make the case that it does make sense that you'd find basalt there. But I don't know, just me personally, I was taught basalt is typically a product of an oceanic environment. So that's just me.
Yeah.
But anyway, going on. That was my little tangent.
The fourth new biome is the Soul Valley. There are mysterious fossils that completely spawn. They just generate all over the Soul Valley. It's completely covered in new blocks soul soil, which then placed on, if there's fire placed on the soul soil, it turns blue, which is the soul fire. And then skeletons also spawn now in that biome. I'm just gonna get into a new thing that's really important to the game, the Bastion Dungeon. I think we already covered some of it, but there are lanterns attached to chains. Piglins and hoglins spawn there, and then there's a treasure chest there. And that's basically it. You can get netherite armor, which is the top tier armor in this game now.
Yeah. So if you thought diamond was good, this stuff is better.
Way better.
And it is extremely hard to find.
I would
know.
Yeah.
He's been mining it like a maniac. It's incredibly hard to find.
It is.
And so to wrap up our our Geek Out disguised as a mini review. I'm just gonna go over some of the new loot that accompanies this update, and that'll be the netherite scrap, which is the thing you mine, which you can then make into the netherite ingot, which then you can make into the netherite armor and netherite tools, and that would be pickaxe, sword, shovel, axe, etc.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are like an act.
Warped fungus on a stick. We mentioned that earlier. The Pig Step music disc, which is basically a new soundtrack that Minecraft has added to the game, and the Lodestone compass. And the really last thing, the respawn anchor, which you can't. When you die in the Nether, you technically get jettisoned back to the overworld, but with this thing, you can die and stay in the Nether.
Yeah.
It's basically a cool new thing. Acts as a bed.
Awesome.
And that concludes our geek review of Geek Out review, mini Geek Out of the Nether update.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I'm gonna say I have no idea what you guys were talking about. I thought I knew some Minecraft. I have no idea. And I think Gabe, we lost him like maybe 20 minutes ago because I don't think he even knows what Minecraft is.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I know what it looks. I know what the cover of the game looks like. That's about it. So,
I don't even think you could ask questions because what question would you ask at that point?
I mean,
right?
my question would be every single thing would be like, "What's a goblin?" or whatever. I don't even know what you said. Every single
What?
second I would be like, "What's that? What's that? What's that?"
It's all good.
Yeah.
Minecraft is a very popular game, so our listeners, I guess, will know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, Gabe, you and I will be blissfully ignorant with this.
Yeah, I think we kind of took a seat back on this one. So
yeah, we'll leave the experts to it on that one.
Yeah.
All right, man, you're up.
Oh, so I'm up. All right, I got a couple quick things that I'm gonna talk about. I'm not gonna go as in depth and disguise it as a review, but essentially, I'm gonna geek out over something that AJ not too long ago geeked out on, and it's American Gods. So
Nice.
I've been putting off reading the graphic novel for a while. I've known that I've been wanting to read it, but I had a bunch of other books that I was kind of made a commitment to read before I got to it and stuff. It's been in my collection. A collection for which I have been ever expanding at Final Fantasy Brooklyn, my local comic book shop. But had to do the shameless plug in there.
Mm-hmm.
But so I've read the whole first book and then I started the show. And I gotta say that like I'm partial to the written and drawn material more than I am usually to something translated to TV. And in this case, I kind of had to hold to it. I've only seen the first 4 or 5 episodes of the show, but it is so different in how the book, in my opinion, not super different, but it's got a few stark differences to how the character of Shadow is portrayed in the book versus how it's portrayed on screen, that I'm having trouble kind of, I guess, accepting Shadow on screen, which is a shame
Oh,
because I think that the performance is
okay.
good. It's not how it's not how I read it, you know.
Right.
And I'll go into that in a moment. Um, I do like the fact that the show is portraying certain plot points and story points differently on the timeline than the book because it's still hitting those notes from the book, and but it's doing it in a way that's in a different sequence, so it's still fresh and still on the show. It's still sort of original, you could say, to the show because it's the story points are being hit, but just in different sequences and different orders as far as how I read it and all that. So that's been something that's kind of cool to see, but it's, kind of also makes me not want to watch the show until I finish the second book, which I'm in the middle of, just
Okay.
in case something gets spoiled from the book. Um, but going back to the show, the issues that I have with the character of Shadow is that in the book, Shadow was very, I want to say, monotone and reserved. You see that in the beginning sequence where he's in prison and he's basically not bothered by anything. He kind of bites his tongue and holds it to himself, shows no expression on his face, even when he's told, that his that a certain beloved person has passed away, with no
Dead wife.
reaction. Yeah, well, didn't want to spoil it right away. Um, God,
Out
you
for
guys
a
are
while.
terrible.
So hey, listen, man, the show's been out for a bit now. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but that's
Finished the 2 seasons, so I'm
see
good.
me. I personally don't like to spoil deaths. At least I don't like to spoil deaths.
oh, okay.
Unlike Jose, you know.
Well, listen, I've done some spoiling myself, so it's
Yeah,
it kind of runs in the family, I guess. You know.
yeah. So, yeah, I guess so. It's a Melgar thing. Um, so that's one of the issues that I kind of have with like the character. The character on the show, he's very kind of like, expressive and reactive, and he shows anger, which I guess would relate more to the human experience. The average person would, probably at a lot of these instances would be just as angry and upset and stuff like that.
Hmm.
However, that's what I found that was very different from the character Shadow in the book. It's like as I'm reading the book, if someone tells me that my wife died in a car accident and how she died, which please let's not spoil that because this
No,
is
we
a
won't.
Oh, I
family
remember.
oriented
Yeah.
show after all.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
a
won't.
very family oriented podcast after all. But how she died, I would be infuriated and embarrassed and upset. But in the book, he wasn't, and he didn't react
Really,
that way. He wasn't,
that's
he
interesting.
was very like, what's the word? It's not mute. It's not.
Nonplus. He was just
He
very
just he just he
whatever.
You
just
were
had
convinced.
absolutely no emotion, no reaction. He only had emotion once when he had his first sleep in an actual bed outside of jail, which is like
Okay.
his first night of freedom in an actual bed, and he cried for a moment, but that's it. Um, he seems to be more calculating in the book, where in the show he's not as calculating. Um, and so far, like it's a very different Shadow. And again, for me, the great part about the book was that it's a character that is, you can relate to certain experiences that he's going through because he's going through
Hmm.
very human experiences, but you can't relate to how he's reacting. And that's what makes him so intriguing to me. However, on the show, he's reacting how a normal human would react, which makes it a little less intriguing.
Okay.
So uh yeah, there's that. That's kind of the main thing, but I am enjoying it. There's a couple of decisions on the show that I didn't like. I feel like there's a little bit more of a futuristic tone to certain characters on the show, whereas the book was a little bit more like old mythology.
Mythological. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the mythology is still there on the show, but it's not, I feel like it doesn't translate as well because, it's not old mythology. I don't know if I'm having trouble with the fact that like I'm reading it and I'm just imagining the book on screen or wanting to imagine the book on screen. Uh but yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to fully bash it. Um well, I'm not
So
bashing it
you,
because I do enjoy the show. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy the show. I am enjoying it. I've just enjoyed the book so far a little bit better.
yeah,
So
it's interesting because I did the exact opposite. I watched the show. I haven't read the book yet, And there was a part of me that wanted to read the book afterwards just to see what the differences are, because I thoroughly enjoyed the first season. I heard the second season is kind of a bit messy and stuff and not as good as the
Mm,
first season. And
okay.
maybe that's the reason why I haven't jumped into the second season yet. But
Okay.
I find it interesting that you're doing both at the same time and you're finding these issues, you know?
Right, because I sort of expected the show to run in sequence as the book has run, more or less. I understand like they make changes here and there, but
Right.
there's like in the third or fourth episode, I think it's in the fourth. For example, all right, so there's stuff that happens in the third episode that's in the same sequence as the book, right? There's
Okay.
a checkers game that happens, right?
Ha.
And that's in the same timeline as the book. However, there's something that happens towards the end of the book that happens in the following episode.
Hmm.
So it's there parts of the
You
book,
feel that's
parts
better?
of I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, that's what I'm saying. Like it's not they're telling the same story in a different sequence, which makes the show new again. You know, because they're telling the story in a different way. It's the same
Okay.
story, so I enjoy it. So we'll see.
Cool.
The second thing that I'm geeking out over is uh new podcast that I'm launching.
Hey, there we
So
go.
Oh,
it's a project that I've actually been working on for a while now. Those of you guys that listen to us may know that I also own a jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai school called the Dojo NYC, and I primarily focus on for my personal career and training, jiu-jitsu. I've done Muay Thai for a long time. I've done martial arts for a long time, but jiu-jitsu is kind of like my bread and butter right now, and it's been one of the things that I geek out the most on, which is, if you're a jiu-jitsu nerd, you know what it's like to be a jiu-jitsu nerd. You kind of want to be in and all in with anything and everything related to jiu-jitsu topics, products, stuff like that. So um I have started this new podcast to do essentially kind of what we do here, which is like geek out over jujitsu nerd stuff and do reviews of instructional DVD sets, of gi product or jujitsu products like new cool stylistic training uniforms and you know supplements and that sort of stuff. And I'm doing it with my buddy Danny, who's a student of mine. He appeared on one episode a while back, I believe. Maybe not even on Get Geek. I think it was on our previous iteration of this podcast.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
A long time ago in another podcast far, far away.
yeah, I am hoping to bring him back actually to do some more whenever we're doing another Spider-Man topic. But because
Absolutely.
he's our resident Spider-Man expert. But but yeah, it's been on again and off again for a while, and I finally have over the quarantine kind of worked on it, designed it how I've been wanting to design it, and it's called the Grappling Review. And you can hopefully I'm going through all the back end stuff that Walter usually handles for Get Geek, which is getting our podcast approved, doing all the marketing, doing the artwork design, all the really hard stuff. Recording is easy. It's all the other stuff that's really really difficult,
Yeah.
for which Walter takes care of for the most part. And so going through all that stuff, hopefully the first couple episodes will be up very soon. And but IG is up, website's being designed. If you guys want to give me a follow and some support, check out the Grappling Review on Instagram.
Yep, we're
Um,
gonna we're gonna throw a accompanying link to on our Instagram, pointing it to
sweet,
your direction and stuff. You know.
sweet. There you go.
So, what are the things that you find interesting when you're recording about jiu-jitsu? Is there anything different from what we do here?
Nah, sorry about that.
No, no worries.
Not too much to be honest with you. Because with jujitsu there is in the grappling world actually, because it's a grappling podcast, so it's not just jujitsu. It's
Right.
MMA, grappling, wrestling, judo, any kind of grappling, any kind of news that kind of comes out. we kind of want to talk about it, but we also there's a big sector of jiu-jitsu, instructionals where, there's a lot of information out there on instructional DVDs, which would be, let's say, in the Get Geek world, TV shows and movies, we would take a look at these instructional DVDs, kind of dissect them a little bit, and review them for the for our listeners before they purchase it. Right? We kind of let them know, like, hey, is this worth buying or not? That
Yeah.
sort of thing. Uh, in the jiu-jitsu world, also, it's you have some sectors that are actually, believe it or not, and I think you guys know because you guys train with me as well, but for those of you guys that
Mhm.
don't train jiu-jitsu, there's a sector of like streetwear and fashion and whatnot, and there's stuff coming out every single week that we can kind of take a chance to kind of review if we get our hands on the product, or at least like mention this cool new thing that's coming out, and so on and so forth. And in the first episode that we're going to release, one of the biggest brands in the game, Albino and Preto, who make jiu-jitsu gis and whatnot, they have a lot of collaborations with big brands. They had a Bear Brick collaboration a couple months ago. They did a New Era fitted hat release a month ago, and this past week they partnered up with Interscope Records to release a playlist, a jiu-jitsu grappling playlist, on
Oh,
Spotify.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
that's what I'm
awesome.
saying. Like, there's a lot of cool things that happen in the jiu-jitsu community that's not just strictly martial arts, and there's enough for us to geek out on. So, or nerd out
I
on
think
and
it's
all that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super helpful because I know I follow a couple of things on Facebook and Instagram when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and especially on Facebook, there's like ads for DVDs, like they come rampant left and right, and I know jujitsu is more of a thing where you kind of need to be present, right, for in a gym,
Yeah,
but you can do some stuff, through
yeah,
DVD. And I think the fact that you guys are reviewing that is probably going to be super helpful for especially like the white belts that are just starting out or people that are looking to get into the jiu-jitsu community.
right,
It's a good way for them to kind of like maybe you guys can direct them to the right type of DVD. They can
right.
look at it, get the sense, and then maybe the next step for them is actually finding a gym. Hopefully, it'll be the Dojo NYC, but finding a gym so that they can actually practice the art instead of just watching it on TV and stuff.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I plan on doing also is being able to visit some other gyms and stuff like that, and review the training experience at those gyms, and kind of talk about that stuff as well, so I can kind of put it out there for people. It's something that's super important for me to kind of help the community get more involved and bring it a little bit closer together, through the podcast. So, but yeah, that's basically what I've been geeking out on.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. So,
It's
like I
awesome.
said, we're gonna be pointing some of our posts on Instagram to your site, and as soon as you get your opening day, we'll celebrate that on Get Geek also.
Yeah.
You know.
Sweet. Thank you guys so
Cool.
much for the support, and
All right.
looking forward to maybe getting you guys on the podcast you know when we get a chance. So
Hey, listen, you'll get more out of E because he's a what are you? You're a yellow belt, right?
Yeah.
I'm still that really really raw white belt. So both
I mean,
me
that
and
white belt's
Ethan.
looking kind of yellow right now, so
Well, that's true. It's been there for a while, right? you know,
yeah.
but it'll be super interesting. So congratulations on that. And
No,
again,
thank you guys.
Congrats.
we're
Yeah,
gonna be
congrats.
promoting that as
Congrats.
best as we can. You know. So that's gonna wrap things up for this episode of the Get Geek podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I want to ask you guys to make sure to check us out on both Facebook and Instagram. And please subscribe to the show. We're on every podcast app that's available. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. So, if you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, like I said before, please rate and review the show. This is the way that we get feedback from you guys.
This
as
is
to
the way.
Exactly, right? What we're doing right, what things you want to hear us talk about a little bit more. And, you know, it'll help us out because it'll push us up and make us a little bit more visible to other people. And also, just tell your friends. It's that simple, you know? So, like I said, you know, this is a podcast that's made possible by listeners like you. So, you know, we want to thank you for your support. And please continue to support us because we want to continue to give us this great content that you guys are used to. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode. And until then, stay geeky, my friends.